Hello and welcome to my channel on human design. Well, today, like every week for the last few months, we're going to be going through various viewer questions. And there's some good ones this week. There's some really good ones. So I think you're going to enjoy this. We're going to start off with a question from Sheena Holly. And Sheena asks, Richard, would you say that an all-quadrite person would be similar to a rave? That they would develop consciousness later than most humans? I'm a three-quarter quadrite myself, and I seemed to develop my own thoughts later than most. I took my cues from other people during my youth. My sibling was all quad left, and he didn't listen to anyone. Thanks. That's an interesting question, Sheena. I think it's about time I should say that there's been a lot of questions about quadrites, and I want you to understand it is a deeper layer of the knowledge, and there are different factors involved in terms of how the mind takes in data. The tone is really important to understand it in detail. I think I've certainly helped to overcome this problem for people beginning by putting in the advanced descriptions on my app. So these descriptions will explain in more detail the specifics for how each one of the variables works within you. The app is http://humandesignrave.com, and you can have a look at it for free for 3 days. So have a look at that. That will be helpful. Now, regarding your question, do people that have a lot of right in them have to develop their consciousness? And are they like raves? Well, no, we're not like raves. As I explained last week, we are within our own individual encapsulated human form. So we don't have a melding mind, one group mind and many bodies like the rave. It's a completely different way of being. So no, we're still human, and everything that comes with being a human, caring about our survival, etc. And I don't know which of your variables is left, so it's difficult for me to answer the question accurately for you, but I'm going to assume that you have the sun and the earth in a right fixed way, and also that the nodes are right, the personality nodes are right. So if that's the case, yeah, you're here to take in the data, you're here to take in the information, you're here to see in a peripheral way. And in that sense, you don't know what you're taking in. It's all being stored within you, but you don't know until the questions are asked, and then you find out what you know. It's all stored in there. So you're dependent on what's being drawn from you. When you're saying developing consciousness, if you're having a lot of interaction with people, well, that will happen. But if you're not, you just don't know what you've got in you. So taking cues from other people, I think that's probably quite normal. I did that myself, trying to work out what the hell is going on out there, and not knowing what I knew. You don't have a strategic mind, like your brother. You don't have a strategic mind. You don't have a goal orientated way of looking. You'd be very focused if you did, and in that sense it would be easier for you to develop your thoughts along certain lines, but you don't operate that way. It's about taking in. The consciousness is huge. I mean, the information you're taking is vast. So when you're talking about the development of it, I think it just over time, you get to begin to trust that this is the way that you are, and you'll see your consciousness is already developing, even if you're unaware of it. Okay, that's all I have to say for that question. However, the next question from Julie may also add further light on that. Julie asks, Actually, on the topic of quad rights, I listened to the video of Ra talking about it, and he said, I'm not here to focus. But how do I do a job where I do have to focus? My job is currently in technology, and that requires periods of focus. And I find it so incredibly hard sometimes. Thanks. Well, Julie, what can I say? Start looking for another job. You're not designed to focus. I mean, if I take myself, I've got as I said before, a right view and a right way in my personality sun. So I'm kind of right, left. So I take in everything. And yet I also have the gate of focus in terms of my sacral energy. So I am able to focus on certain details, but at the same time, my consciousness is just in a flow. And I have an open head and an open ajna. There's no fixed way of me thinking, and I see in a peripheral way. But my brain is designed to be able to see whatever the issue is, and then it's drawn out of me, what I do about it. I don't think it as such. And if I'm over-focused for too long on something, using my mind, in other words, trying to direct it to too many different or lots of different focuses, as I have in developing the app, for example, it gets to a point of exhaustion. And I don't like to do that kind of work. It's not my way, and it's not your way. Our way is to really take in the information, and the associations to many different things come up in that. So, seriously, just look for another job. Why put yourself through all that agony? It's like, well, I need money, Richard, to survive in the material plane. Yeah, I get it. But there are other ways. I mean, this is what we mean when we say, you're meeting resistance if you're not, living your own design. This is what will happen, and you'll just meet more and more resistance, and it will become unbearably exhausting, and be detrimental to the way that you are. Let me also share with you something about the first time I got this information about the right and the left. Ron didn't say anything about it until he did, and we're all sitting there in the class wondering where the hell this is going, as he unveiled another layer. I was surrounded by 4 transmitters and a highly emotional 39, 55, 22, 12 to my right, when I got the information about being right myself. And it's not common for me to burst out with tears coming through. It's just not the way I normally operate. But bear in mind what I had around me. And also what happened when I heard this was suddenly I got flung back to my childhood and to school. And I was one of those people that I got an A for effort in virtually every subject. But when it came to the exams, I would really struggle, because I would have to answer a question, and there was no one to relate to in it. I was just taking in the question on paper, and it was a hell of a job for me to kind of work out what they wanted from me, because often the questions weren't that clear. Sometimes they were, but there were, not everyone is good at asking questions, and so there was an ambiguity in it. What angle, what are they asking? So I found that really difficult. And if I had a strategic mind, it would probably be immediately obvious. So that was, something that really rocked me, because, I used to cram before going into the exams, not trusting that I'd taken it all in, trying to hold on to it as, ready to use like a strategic mind. So I found them agony. But it also, when I got this information, opened me up more to the way I really do operate. So it's very useful and very healing. Anyway, just thought I would share that with you. Okay, the next question is from Mukawoohoo. And their question is, I am in a dilemma. I am a 2-5 innocent emotional generator, right angle cross of the laws 4, with the 360, both red and black, and the 1949 black, and have an insane crush on someone. About a month ago, we had a few good conversations, and my mind got all excited about the possibilities we could have together as a partnership. But for some reason, when he started showing interest back, my body became defensive and now avoids him. It's been 3 weeks and I feel panic and walk away quickly when I see him. And it makes me depressed since I feel I am hurting his feelings too, especially since we work together in close proximity at a restaurant. It has become awkward and makes me sad. Just in general, I have no friends and rarely talk to people, even in my own family. I am often lonely. The idea of being with someone sounds so nice, and he seems like such a nice person, and yet I can't seem to control my body's instinct to flee when I see him. I guess that's normal for a crush, maybe. But also in my life, I have never been able to properly repair relationships when things become uncomfortable, and often leave it up to the other. I keep wondering if there's something wrong with me, or if my past relationship trauma is interfering with my life. I'm waiting to see if I will reach emotional clarity. Whenever I think about this, I feel nervous. That's a sign that I'm still unsure. Does this mean this relationship is not good for me? Since I'm a single definition, does that mean I'm better alone? Is there anything I can do? Wow, that's quite a question. And I thank you for asking it and being brave enough to do that. And good that you did. I mean, you're a 2-5, okay? So the second line is shyness. You know, you're going to be shy. In fact, it's one of the ways you attract people to you. You know, they look at you and you go, you know, and because of the shyness, it's kind of more attractive. It's a, you know, you're waiting for them to call you out, for them to call you out. On top of that, you have a fifth line as well. So you're aware that people are always projecting upon you. You know, it takes time for someone to really get to know who you are. They need to spend time around you so that they can really see you beneath the projection screens. You know, they can see some of your gifts through the second line, but the projection field in the fifth line, you know, who knows what the projection is that they're picking out. The other thing to realize is that you're a 360, so there's a kind of an unstable base, you know, wanting the new, you know, therefore, you know, putting things into a new order, living in a new way, you know, that's in you. I mean, I carry it as well. It's quite something to have. And I'm happy about it, but there you go. It can be very depressing. You know, if you feel too limited, if you feel restricted, if you can't see, you know, a way to live that newness, yes, it can become very depressing. It's just part of the chemistry, and that's red and black. And then you've got the black in the 1949, which is highly sensitive, you know, and really can love and really wants to be loved, but you know, it builds and bursts this pressure, you know, to connect to the other, you know, and it gets very, very nervous. This is you. There's nothing wrong with you. This is the way that you operate. You know, sometimes the 1949 needs, you know, heavy rock and roll, you know, when they're really pissed off about something, you know, and other times they just need to be held and squeezed, you know. So you've got a very sensitive and mutative life force, and you've got a double projection screen around you. And it is natural for 2-5s to spend, you know, a lot of time on their own and have a few good friends along the way that they stay in touch with for many, many years. This is normal. Regarding the relationship, it's, you know, you're bound to be, you know, under tremendous pressure because, you know, this longing to connect and at the same time being shy and you know, it's like this. So what can you do? The second line doesn't want to be pushed. You know, it doesn't want the pressure from the outside to kind of, you know, grab you and pull you into something. It will resist. It will close off. It will bring up its barrier. And what's really ideal is for you to open when you're in the mood. So they have to wait for you to open to them. And at the moment, you're really nervous, you know, thinking you've messed it all up because of the awkwardness and the fact that you're working together. And, you know, my suggestion would be to chill if you can around this person, not to give so much of a charge to it, you know, to have a little bit of humor or something, you know, without it being contrived, to just begin to notice, because you do notice what's going on with other people a lot, to keep it on a kind of a level that isn't hyper intense about romance. Okay. Just connect, you know, on a simple thing. If you're working together in a restaurant, there's lots of opportunities to make comments about what's going on in all kinds of ways. So to bring it back to a more normal way of relating, and then let them call you out. And if it's at a time when you are open to them, and if they have that kind of sensitivity, they will know, or they'll find out. They're finding out right now. You know, they're probably wondering what the hell's going on with her. But, you know, you don't want to close down the door if it's something that you've responded to go into. At the same time, it has to be for you to really open to it, not in an imaginary way, but actually in an auric way. You know, when you're around them and you're in the mood and you're feeling more social and you're feeling lighter. So I would, you know, if it were me, you know, I would breathe for certain. I would breathe. If you like this guy, there's going to be times when you're going to want to smile. So allow your smile and just take down the barriers a little bit. There will be times when you don't want anyone near you. That's natural, but that's not all the time. It comes up now and again, you know, and it came up at an awkward time when you perhaps got frightened, you know, when now you've got to really face this, you've really got to deal with this, and like, am I really ready for this? Now, if you felt into it over a long time, it sounds like you are ready for it. So it's a matter of, you know, you're not making such a big deal out of it, and be more available in the moment when you're in the mood. Totally depends on your emotional state. So I would, you know, give yourself a break, and also realize that there is no fixed identity in the chart. You know, there's an open throat, so you don't know what to say or who to be. You know, when you're with him, it's like suddenly everything's in flux, and so that's normal. Keep breathing, and when you're ready to open, you will open, and hopefully it'll be something humorous. That's usually a good start. All right, take care of yourself. Thank you for the question. Don't overstress about it. Okay, the next question is from LYD LYNB. And the question is, hi, Richard. I recently watched your Find Your Purpose video, and it was my first time learning about the quarters. I have the right angle cross of the 4 ways, 3, placing me in the Quarter of Duality, with a purpose fulfilled through bonding. It's been interesting for me to learn about this, as much of my chart leans towards the individual. I'm a 1-3 profile with 13 of my active gates in the individual circuit. Wow. My channels are 5710, 14-2, and 5-15. The only tribal activations I have are gates 44 and 19. While I very much relate to the themes of the individual, I find relationships of all kinds to be points of difficulty for me. True bonding is something that I struggle with and have throughout my whole life. Do you have any insight or advice on how to navigate a purpose centered around bonding when so many other elements of my design seem to emphasize individuality and self-sufficiency? Thank you for all of your great videos and info. Okay, Lidlin B. Interesting question. Good question. So you're a 1-3, okay? So 1-3s are very much self-absorbed, people. You know, we're into investigating what's interesting for us. We're into having a go when we get the invitation, or when we respond to whatever it is. And your in terms of the life force, the life force that isn't individual is about the love of humanity. It's about, you know, keeping to your own rhythm and your own timing, but also it is there to help others too. But it's not the same as bonding, because that's logical. And I want you to think again about the Quarter of Duality. It is a life fulfilled through relating and relationships, but every single gate of the spleen is in that quarter. And it begins with a logical gate, the 7. So the first thing is, in terms of, you know, the role of the leader, you know, and the leadership, people look to relationships and they say, well, if I team up with that person, will I be better off? Will it lead me into a better future? So that's the theme that runs through it. At the same time, it is to be alert to who you meet along the way, to be aware of who you meet along the way, to be aware of their influence upon you, positive or negative. Having a great deal of individuality in you means that, you know, you're here to bring difference to the collective. You're here to be mutative. You're here to appreciate the absurd in life. You know, you're here to move in your own way, in your own inner direction. So bonding in the homogenized way, it probably ain't going to work for you. You know, you're probably going to think, well, you know, I want more interesting conversations, or I don't really feel they can see me. So don't think about it as bonding. Think about it as those people you meet along the way that just make you laugh and you like to hang out with them, you know, and they become important because they're a bit crazy like you as well. And, you know, just that recognition of the other person's individuality and their recognition of your individuality, it can be about that. You know, it can be about that. And a few pointers also in that direction. You know, you've got the 57, you know, someone who needs to enjoy the voice of the person in order to want to connect with them. You know, and you've got your own individual behavior. You know, you've got to be allowed to behave in the way that is real for you and true for you. The channel of perfected form also means that beauty has to be in the life. So again, it's these kind of things that happen to 1-3s. It's not like you go out there to try to make a relationship. You bump into someone who sees the beauty that you see in whatever it is, and they smile and they go, wow, that's so good. And you go, yes, it is, you know, and then, you know, it leads on from there as the conversation goes. You don't have to be anyone else but you. And you know, you're designed to make and break with other people too. So when you're saying it's really difficult, is it difficult because, you know, you move from one relationship to another? I mean, that is part of the way that a 1-3 can operate correctly. You know, you don't have tribal channels in you. So, you know, if you think that, oh no, I should be bonding, I should be, you know, connected to one person for the rest of my life, or I should, whatever it may be in your mind, just realize you're individual, realize that this is going to be a life led in your way, and the people that you relate to, that you bump into along the way, they're going to add to it, and some of them are going to be really important to you. And then you realize, you know, what really meaningful relationships are. You know, you're not going to be one of these people from the Quarter of Duality that will, you know, just be around people as much as they can, even if they don't find the conversation stimulating or interesting. No, you're not going to do that. So Again, don't make too much of a big deal out of it. Just realize it's already happening. You know, you'll see that there are people that you do connect to. And it may not be in a romantic way, but just notice the quality of it. And, you know, just be yourself, and the right people turn up. The wrong people also turn up. And then you learn all about that, you know. And you'll find, actually, over time, you know, you are a 1-3, you know, there's a certain mastery that comes in your way to be able to deal with the other that is also on your terms. So, you know, and your own deconditioning within the emotional system is also going to help as time goes by. Because again, dealing with an open emotional system, you know, you don't have an urge to merge, you know, you have the experience of being overwhelmed by the emotional field, you know, and of course you're going to have difficulty, you know, unless you understand who you are. So, and understand that you're here to learn about the emotional field. You know, it's a learning, it's an investigation. It's like, well, wow, that really affected me in this way or that way. And to become more comfortable with the fact that you're going to be taking in those emotional energies, and they are not you. And you are not here to bend to them all the time either. You're here to learn from them. You're here to be enriched by them. You're here to enjoy them, you know, but you're not here to have your independence taken away from you as a single definition. And that's not going to happen. You are a 1-3 after all. By that I mean, you know, you are designed to be an authoritarian, living your life, looking at what you need to do to find the solid foundation in whatever your expertise is, and there can be many along the road. So yeah, you're probably going to learn more about work colleagues and people around you, and from that you find yourself in situations and meeting potential romantic partners. Anyway, not for me to predict, but you know, the difficulty doesn't have to remain a difficulty, and over time it will change. The more you stay true to your response, the more the right people will be around you, the less the people that are not for you will be around you. So this is the important thing. You doing your own work takes you into your life. And depending on how long you've been in human design and the intensity to which you've gone into the experiment, you know, there will have been, you know, you would have lost a lot of people that you were around before, because it just doesn't work anymore. And you can see that, and you know that. And you're being open to more appropriate people for you in your own understanding. It takes time, patience. Anyway, thank you for the question, and thank you for all the questions for this week. I think that's all we've got time for. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll be back again very soon with something completely different. Bye for now.